The second time around, I made a conscious choice to sever every possible tie with Sarah Jenkins. When she chose a house on the west side, I bought a detached home on the east side. I put half the town between us. On the rare occasion she brought her son over to my place for dinner, I locked myself in my room and pretended to be sick. I wouldn't even see her face. When I heard she'd put in for a transfer to be the clerk in our department, I submitted my resignation that same night. I rode the wave of the new economy and headed for Texas. I did it all because in my first life, I loved her for 40 years, and she berated me for 40 years. She compared me to him, the one that got away. At every turn, convinced that I was the one who had ruined her dream of being the plant manager's wife. She was so shameless, she started planning her wedding to him before I was even dead. Even my own stepson, the boy I raised as my own, was helping her running errands and making arrangements for the happy couple. They left me to die alone in a hospital bed. Given a chance to live again, there was no way in hell I was going through that kind of failure twice. 1.
Kevin, you got time to be sleeping in here? Rick Wagner just asked Sarah out, right in the open. Kevin, wake up, man.
My eyes shot open to the urgent shouts. The smell of rust and motor oil flooded my senses, a familiar cocktail from the plant floor. A faded quality and production banner on the wall seemed to burn into my retinas. Rick Wagner? Sarah?
What are you staring at, Miller? Go on, get out there. Rick's been using his old man's position as plant manager to get close to her, always waiting until you're on the night shift to make his move. If you don't do something, she's going to say yes.
A few of the younger guys from the workshop started pushing me toward the door. As I passed a window, I saw them. Not far off, Rick was leaning on his bicycle, saying something to Sarah. She had that shy, hesitant look on her face, but her eyes kept darting in our direction. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. I shoved my way out of the crowd and ran to the production schedule posted on the wall. The duty roster was written in clear, block letters. April 15th, 1980. I was back, 40 years in the past, back on the very day my life went off the rails. I remembered it all. In my first life, this was the moment. Rick Wagner confessed his feelings to Sarah, asking her and her son to go to the park with him tomorrow. I'd been so naive. I thought all those years I'd given her my paychecks, handed over my food rations, and her silent acceptance of it all meant we had an understanding. Besides, Sarah was always complaining to me about how Rick wouldn't leave her alone, how much he bothered her. So, egged on by my coworkers, I grabbed a wrench, stormed over there, and beat the hell out of Rick in front of half the steel plant. But when I was dragged into the security office, Sarah turned on me. She blamed me for being too impulsive. She insisted she'd never said Rick bothered her, and she certainly had never agreed to be with me. Then, right in front of my eyes, she started tending to Rick's wounds. After that, for crossing the manager's son, I was demoted to the boiler room for 3 years. I didn't get a real post again until his father was arrested for embezzlement, and even then, my career was effectively over. Now, with a second chance from God himself, only a fool would walk the same path. I turned around and tossed the wrench back into the toolbox. The metallic clang made everyone jump. What's it got to do with me? I said. They're both single. If they want to get together, that's perfectly normal. Why would I stand in their way? The workshop fell silent. Frank, one of the older guys, was so shocked he dropped his enamel mug. It hit the concrete floor with a loud clang. I couldn't blame them. Everyone knew I'd been carrying a torch for Sarah Jenkins for years. I'd been good to her since she was a teenager. Even after she married someone else, I couldn't let go. I just buried the feelings deep down. After her husband died, I doubled my efforts. Most of my monthly salary went to supporting her and her son. For a guy that devoted to suddenly say he was letting go, who would believe it?
Kevin, are you so mad you've lost your mind? Sarah's a decent girl. She probably just doesn't know how to say no to him. You should.
Frank, don't. I cut him off, my voice firmer than it had ever been. I'll admit, I used to really like Sarah, but I've had a long time to think, and you can't force something that isn't there. I've got to start thinking about my own future. Can't spend my whole life chasing a woman who doesn't want me, right? I put it so bluntly they had nothing left to say. They just watched me walk out the main gate, whispering among themselves, probably wondering if I'd finally cracked under the pressure. I pretended not to hear. As I passed the couple, My eyes met Sarah's. She shot me a look, and this time, I understood it for what it was. The smug satisfaction of a woman who enjoys watching two men fight over her. 2. I didn't waste any time thinking about Sarah and Rick's budding romance, so I was surprised when she showed up at my door. I just washed up and was about to head to bed when a sharp knock echoed off the wooden door. When I opened it, Sarah was standing in the moonlight, wearing that familiar, hesitant expression I knew all too well.
Kevin, I need to talk to you.
She twisted the hem of her shirt, her eyes darting past me into my small house. I held my ground, blocking the doorway. It's late, Sarah. Whatever it is, we can talk at the plant tomorrow.
It'll only take a minute.
She insisted, her voice rising before she quickly lowered it.
It's about what happened today with Rick. He asked me to go to the park with him and Leo this weekend. I said yes.
I waited for the rest, but that was it. That's what she'd come all this way to tell me. Okay, I said, turning away like it was no big deal to go put away my wash basin. She waited a moment. While I didn't react, her voice grew tense.
Is that all you have to say?
I was genuinely confused. What do you want me to say? Have a good time? Oh, right. The forecast says rain this weekend. You should probably bring an umbrella. Sarah's hands clenched the fabric of her shirt so tightly her knuckles went white. When she looked up again, her eyes were red.
Kevin Miller, what is your problem? I come all the way over here at night to tell you this, and that's how you act.
How am I supposed to act? This seems pretty normal. What did you expect? I decided to go all in. I sat down, pulled out a cigarette, and lit it right in front of her. Sarah's face went slack with shock, probably because she was remembering how I used to be the one who never smoked around her, telling her secondhand smoke was bad for her health. I was the one who eventually quit, just to save the money to buy her face cream. She bit her lip, as if finally sensing something was seriously wrong. She actually reined in her temper and tried to explain.
No, it's just, I didn't want you to get the wrong idea, so I came to tell you myself. Rick and I are just co-workers, that's all. I only said yes because I felt too bad to refuse. Oh, the plant is assigning the new company housing soon. I was thinking of putting in for the place on the west side. That way I'd be closer to you, and we could walk to work together. What do you think?
My eye twitched. I looked up and met her beaming face. The old me would have been overwhelmed with gratitude, convinced this meant she truly cared. But this time I knew better. It was all part of her game. Every time I was about to give up, she'd offer me a sliver of hope, just enough to make me think I was on the verge of winning her over. And I would fall for it every time, gladly playing the fool, giving her everything I had. In the end, it always amounted to nothing. I shook my head and set my mug down on the table, a clear signal that it was time for her to leave. Don't bother. I'm on a tight schedule. I don't have time to wait for anyone. It's getting late. You should go home before people start talking. Sarah's expression soured instantly. She seemed to think I was still just sulking, and her eyes widened in disbelief.
Kevin, are you still angry because Rick asked me to the park? I already told you, I was just being polite. How can a grown man be so petty?
Really? I cut her off. Were you just being polite last winter when you knitted him that scarf? Or last month when you brought him iced tea every day? I've never seen someone go to so much trouble just to be polite. Her face went pale, her lips trembling. You were spying on me? I laughed coldly. The plant is only so big, Sarah. I don't need to spy on you.
Besides, what are we to each other? You think I'd waste my energy on that? Then what right do you have to butt into my business?
She shrieked, her finger nearly poking me in the nose. I leaned in, looking down at her. I should be asking you the same thing. If we're nothing to each other, why are you here in the middle of the night explaining yourself to me? Her chest heaved, tears clinging to her eyelashes. A sight like that used to break my heart for months. Now it just seemed pathetic. Finally, her face flushed with anger, she spat out.
You're impossible, Kevin Miller.
And stormed out, slamming the door so hard the whole house shook. I stood by the window until the sound of her footsteps faded completely. Then I went to my desk, pulled out the housing application from the bottom drawer, and under the preferred address section, I firmly wrote 2 words. East Side. 3. In the days that followed, Sarah and I fell into a strange, unspoken Cold War. I was more than happy with the quiet. I wanted to draw a line in the sand between us anyway, so the sooner, the better. She, on the other hand, kept finding excuses to wander past my workstation, only to storm off in a huff when I ignored her. It happened so often that even the guys I worked with started to notice something was up. The tension came to a head on the day the housing assignments were announced. The meeting room was packed. I sat in a corner, listening to a few of the older guys teasing me.
Heard the factory bell picked the house on the west side, Kevin. You're a lucky man. And here I was worried after seeing you 2 fight the other day. You better not screw this up.
Frank nudged me with his elbow, a knowing grin on his face. Dave, one of the younger guys, leaned in to join the fun.
Yeah, man, talk about a home field advantage. When it's official, don't forget to invite us to the wedding.
I just smiled and fiddled with the pen in my hand without saying a word. If this were my first life, I would have been floating on air hearing them say that. Now, please.
Settle down. Settle down. I'm announcing the assignments now.
The supervisor banged his fist on the table, and the room went quiet. I glanced up at Sarah, sitting in the front row. She was anxiously twisting the hem of her shirt, looking back at me every few seconds.
West Side, Building 3, Apartment 302, is assigned to Comrade Sarah Jenkins.
A wave of hoots and catcalls erupted in the room. Frank slapped me hard on the shoulder.
Did you hear that, Kevin? She's going to be right next door.
Everyone started chiming in, but the conversation always came back to the 2 of us. Sarah stood up, blushing.
Please, everyone, don't talk like that.
Her voice was soft and demure, but her eyes were locked on me. The supervisor cleared his throat again.
Quiet. Also, in consideration of Comrade Kevin Miller's move to a private residence on the east side, which is farther from the plant, the board has decided to adjust his shift schedule. Dave, you'll be swapping with him.
The room exploded. Every head turned to look at me. Frank's jaw was practically on the floor.
Kevin, you moved to the east side.
I nodded. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the color drain from Sarah's face. The notebook in her hand slipped and fell to the floor with a soft thud. After the meeting, before everyone had even cleared out, Sarah was blocking the doorway. She grabbed my sleeve.
Kevin, why didn't you tell me you were moving?
I slowly pulled my arm free. Why would I tell you? Weren't you the one who said we were nothing to each other? Her face flushed, then went pale. Her lips trembled.
You were lying, weren't you? You just wanted to see me worry about you.
I glanced at her, said nothing, and walked around her toward the exit. Behind me, her voice cracked.
Kevin Miller, you stop right there.
I didn't turn back. I didn't even break my stride. When I got home, I started packing. There wasn't much. In my last life, almost everything I owned had been poured into the black hole that was Sarah Jenkins. As I was taping up a box, the yard gate creaked open with a loud bang. Sarah's son, Leo, stood there, scowling.
Uncle Kevin, are you moving?
I kept tying rope around a box without looking up. Yeah.
Then who's going to cook for us? Who's going to give us money?
The little brat said it with such entitlement, just like his mother. I straightened up and looked at the boy, the ungrateful kid I had raised like my own son in my last life. Find another sucker. Leo stared at me for a second, then shrieked.
Mom! Uncle Kevin swore at me.
Sarah rushed in from outside the gate, her eyes red and puffy.
Kevin, what is your problem? What did the child ever do to you?
I picked up the last box and headed for the door. No problem. I'm just done being a sucker. The moving truck was already waiting at the end of the alley. I tossed the box in the back and turned to look at the small house I'd lived in for 10 years. In my last life, I refused to move just to stay close to Sarah. Thinking back on it now, I was such a damn fool. As the truck started to pull away, Sarah ran alongside it, her voice filled with panic.
Kevin, you're really leaving?
I didn't answer her directly. I just pulled the passenger door shut and gave the driver a wave. Let's go. In the rearview mirror, Sarah stood frozen in the middle of the street, her face ashen. Leo was still jumping up and down.
Mom, if he leaves, who's going to buy me a new backpack?
I rolled up the window and lit a cigarette. Let someone else buy it. I was done waiting on them. The plant gave me a few days off for the move. As a result, I hadn't seen Sarah in a while. On my last day off, I cooked myself a feast, a full spread with a pot roast I'd been planning all day. Just as I was about to dig in, a knock came from the yard gate. It was Sarah with her son in tow.
Uncle Kevin, open up.
I carried my plate into the yard and called through the gate. What is it?
Uncle Kevin, my mom said she didn't cook today, so we came to eat at your place.
Leo announced matter-of-factly, pushing against the gate. Through the crack, I could see Sarah standing behind him, holding an empty Tupperware container. The scene was painfully familiar. It had played out countless times in my last life. Back then, I was desperate to get closer to Leo, and I considered it a great honor whenever they came over for a meal. I would use up all my meat rations just to feed the two of them. Who knew I was just feeding a pair of vipers? I rolled my eyes and let out a deliberate cough. I'm not feeling well today. You two should go eat at the diner.
What? You're not feeling well? Did you catch a cold? Kevin, open the door. I can make you some soup.
Sarah said, moving closer. Through the crack, I saw her freshly painted fingernails. She was the type who never lifted a finger. Others always waited on her. What kind of soup did she even know how to make? I shut her down immediately. No thanks. I've already taken medicine and I need a rest. You should go.
Wait, I have good news for you.
Sarah sounded desperate now, rapping on the gate again.
The plan approved my transfer request. Starting next week, I'll be the clerk in your department.
I paused. I'd heard rumors about it a few days ago, but thought it was a joke. I couldn't believe it was actually true.
We'll be co-workers in the same department. We'll be closer, and we can look out for each other.
Her voice had a hint of pleading in it, but I wasn't buying it. There's nothing to look out for, I said, turning and heading back inside. Behind me, Sarah's voice rose to a shout.
Kevin Miller, what is wrong with you? I've gone this far. What more do you want?
I ignored her and shut the door behind me. It was quiet for a moment. Then I heard Leo whining.
Mom, I'm hungry.
Eat, eat. That's all you ever think about.
Sarah snapped.
We're going home.
As the sound of their footsteps faded, I calmly finished my dinner. Then I sat down at my desk and filled out my resignation form. The next morning, I went straight to the supervisor's office. He couldn't understand my decision to quit and didn't want me to go. He tried to persuade me for nearly an hour, talking about the changing economy, the plant's bright future, and even offer me a raise. When he saw I wasn't budging, he sighed.
Think it over a little longer. I'll hold on to this for now.
I stood up to leave. As I pulled open the office door, I saw Sarah standing outside, her eyes bloodshot. It was clear she'd heard every word.
You're quitting? Why? Is it because I'm transferring over? Kevin, you used to say you dreamed of working with me, of walking home together after our shifts were done. Why?
You said it yourself. I cut her off sharply, stepping past her without a second glance. That was before.
Kevin Miller, do you have to be like this? Ever since I agreed to go out with Rick, you've been avoiding me like the plague. You just want to be with me, and you're angry that I was talking to another man. That's all it is. Fine, I'll say yes to you. Is that what you want? Just stop being so cold, please.
She was finally panicking, finally realizing that I was serious about leaving her behind. Too bad for her. This wasn't some game of hard to get. This was real. I wanted nothing more to do with her. I turned to face her. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes again. This time, she didn't care who was watching. She grabbed my arm to stop me from walking away. Co-workers were already starting to stare. I shook her hand off and lowered my voice. Sarah, you might want to be with me, but I don't want to be with you anymore. So, have some decency and stop making a scene. She recoiled as if burned, and the tears finally streamed down her face.
Fine. Just fine. Go then. Leave and don't ever come back.
She didn't have to tell me twice. I left her standing there and started planning my train ticket south. The winds of change were blowing across the country. This life, I was going to live for myself. After our ugly scene outside the supervisor's office, Sarah seemed determined to make me jealous, starting to appear everywhere with Rick Wagner. One day at lunch, I was in the cafeteria when a stir went through the room. I looked up to see Sarah walking in on Rick's arm, a forced smile plastered on her face. Rick deliberately led her to the table right across from mine.
Well, if it isn't Kevin Miller.
He sneered.
Heard you're quitting. What's the matter, can't hack it at the plant anymore?
I just kept eating my food, not even bothering to look up. Sarah feigned a reprimand, but her eyes kept flicking over to me.
Rick, don't say that. Maybe Kevin has better opportunities waiting for him.
Him?
Rick scoffed.
A guy who started in the boiler room? What kind of opportunities is he going to have?
I swallowed my last bite of food and stood up with my tray. In my last life, words like that would have ruined my appetite for days. Now I couldn't care less. I hoped they'd get married and live miserably ever after. As I was leaving, Sarah called out,
Kevin, Rick, and I are going to Las Vegas next month. Is there anything you want me to bring back for you?
Without turning around, I just waved a hand over my shoulder. No thanks. You two have fun. I walked out of the cafeteria and went straight to the public library. I've been spending all my free time researching business opportunities down south, especially the policies in emerging boomtowns. The new economy was taking off, and I had to catch that wave. That weekend, I set up a small table at the flea market near the plant, selling things I'd ordered from a catalog, digital watches, nylon stockings, and other novelties. To my surprise, business was incredible. In one day, I made half a month's salary from the plant.
Hey, you've got some nice stuff here. Better than what they have at the department store.
A young woman said as she paid. I just smiled. In my first life, I knew nothing about any of this. All I knew was how to cling to my steel plant salary and give it all to Sarah. Looking back, I was such an idiot. As I was packing up, I saw Sarah and Rick standing a short distance away. Rick was looking over with a contemptuous sneer. Sarah was frowning, lost in thought. A moment later, they were standing in front of my table.
Well, look at this. Miller's a street peddler now. Maybe I should help you out, give you some business.
Rick taunted. I ignored him and continued packing my goods. Sarah tugged on his sleeve, trying to get him to leave, but Rick shook her off.
What's the rush?
He pulled a wad of $10 bills from his pocket and waved them in my face.
This should be enough to buy everything on your pathetic table, right? You broke loser.
I stopped what I was doing and looked up at him. Rick, how many more years do you think your old man can protect you? 3? 5? His face changed.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing, I said slowly, placing the last item in my bag. Just a reminder that the people you lean on won't always be there. With that, I zipped up my bag and walked away, leaving Rick sputtering with rage. Sarah didn't move. She just stood there, watching me go with a complicated look in her eyes. Back home, I counted the day's earnings and reviewed the business pamphlets I'd received from a contact in Austin. If this trend continued, I'd have enough capital to move south in 2 months. The sound of a car horn blared outside. I pulled back the curtain to see Rick's new Camaro parked out front. Sarah was in the passenger seat, staring right at my house. I let the curtain fall and went back to my business plan. To hell with Rick Wagner and Sarah Jenkins. Nothing was going to stop me from making a new life for myself. After 2 more months of working the flea market, combined with my salary and what little savings I'd left, I finally had enough money to move to Texas. Seeing that my mind was made up, the supervisor sighed and stamped my resignation form. The day before I left, Sarah came to find me. After a moment's thought, I led her into the yard. She was dressed up with bright red lipstick and a cloud of perfume. It was a scent I knew all too well. In my last life, I'd saved for 3 months just to buy her a single bottle. She sat on the stone bench, twisting the hem of her dress, wearing that same hesitant expression.
Kevin, Rick proposed to me.
I kept clearing out the junk in my yard, not even looking up. Congratulations.
You.
She took a couple of steps forward, as if steeling herself, and the words rushed out.
If you tell me you don't want me to marry him, if you tell me to say no, I'll give the ring back right now. Kevin, just say the word, and I'll come back to you. We can have a good life together.
I stopped what I was doing and looked at her. The afternoon sun slanted across her carefully made-up face. The scene felt like a distorted echo of the past. Only that time, she had been telling me with a sneer, if Rick's family hadn't lost everything, do you really think I would have married you? Seeing the desperate hope on her face now, I didn't answer right away. Instead, I put down my things and sat across from her. You know, I had a dream once. In the dream, we got married. Her eyes lit up.
And then what?
And then, in the dream, I was so worried about Leo, afraid he'd feel left out, that we never had any children of our own. I gave you both everything I had, just like before. Whatever you wanted, I got it for you. I brought you home anything nice I saw, anything good to eat. Everyone said you were so lucky to have me. But a flicker of longing had appeared in her eyes, until she heard that one word. Her expression tightened. But in the dream, you never stopped thinking about him. No matter what happened, you were always talking about him. You compare me to him constantly. You said I wasn't as good as him, and you blamed me for ruining your chance to be the plant manager's wife. Even Leo, the son I raised with all my heart, was closer to him. When I got old and sick, he was busy helping you plan your wedding, and I died alone. Sarah, you know who I'm talking about, don't you? The color had drained from her face. Her red-painted fingernails dug into the edge of the wooden table.
But that was just a dream.
I looked her in the eyes and smiled without saying a word. Finally, I stood up and pulled open the yard gate. I hope you'll be very happy. Since you've already accepted his proposal, you probably shouldn't be visiting another man's house. You. Tears welled in her eyes, threatening to fall. It was a look that once made me want to rip my own heart out for her. Her voice thick with emotion, she stepped forward to grab my hand, but I moved away easily.
Kevin, you really don't want me anymore?
I gently guided her out the gate. Don't ask pointless questions. Take care of yourself. The next morning, I was up early to catch the bus. The long-haul bus to the train station was parked outside the plant gate. A few of my old coworkers came to see me off. Frank clapped me on the shoulder.
You're really going, huh? I hear things are pretty wild down in Texas.
I smiled and loaded my suitcase onto the bus. Wild is good. It's where fortunes are made. Dave came over, lowering his voice conspiratorially.
Sarah was crying her eyes out earlier. You sure you don't want to reconsider?
I shook my head and pulled out a pack of Marlboros, passing them around. It's over. As I got on the bus, I took one last look at the place I'd spent half my life. The Safety First slogan on the red brick factory building was faded, exactly as I remembered it. Except in my last life, I was kicked out. This time, I was walking away on my own 2 feet. As the bus rumbled to life, I saw him again, the man I was in my first life, lying in that hospital bed, waiting for death. And Sarah and Leo, busy preparing for her wedding to her one true love. I remember a nurse coming in to change my foredrip, smiling as she said,
Your wife is so lucky. It's not every day someone gets a second wedding this grand.
As the bus pulled out of the plant complex, I thought I saw a flash of red in an office window. For a second, I imagined I heard someone call my name. But in an instant, it was all behind me. I pulled out the business plan from my bag, its pages covered in dense notes about the southern market. The winds of change were blowing, and this time, I was going to ride them. The old man sitting next to me saw me studying my papers.
Going down south to make your fortune, son?
He asked curiously. I closed the folder and smiled. Yeah, gonna give it a shot.
That takes guts.
He said, giving me a thumbs up.
A lot better than those guys who just cling to their union jobs for life.
I looked out the window at the landscape rushing by, thinking how my biggest regret before I died was that I'd never seen the world. Now I could finally fix that. The bus turned onto the highway, and the steel plant disappeared from view. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. When I opened them again, the air itself seemed to smell of money. This was the new American dream. Relying on the hard-won knowledge of a lifetime I wasn't supposed to remember, I easily spotted the market opportunities. I'd only been in Austin for 6 months, but I'd already made more money than I would have in a lifetime at the steel plant. I stood in my newly furnished office, looking down through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the bustling streets below. My assistant, Jessica, placed a stack of files on my desk.
Mr. Miller, here are today's reports. The wholesale division saw a 30% increase in revenue this month.
I nodded, flipping through the documents. The numbers were beautiful, with a few more zeros than last month. On the corner of my desk was a small pile of letters from my hometown, all from old colleagues at the plant.
Also, a man named Dave Robertson is downstairs. He says he's an old coworker of yours.
My hand paused. Sum up. The moment Dave walked in, his eyes went wide.
Kevin, man, this office is nicer than the plant manager's back home.
I laughed and poured him a cup of coffee. It's not that fancy. What brings you all the way to Austin?
You know how it is. The plant's not doing so hot. I took an early retirement.
Dave rubbed his hands together, his eyes glued to the brick phone on my desk.
I thought I'd come see how you were doing and, well, see if there was any work to be had.
I offer him a Camel Light. How is everyone else back home? Dave lit the cigarette and shook his head.
You remember Sarah Jenkins? She actually married Rick Wagner. But guess what? Not even 3 months after the wedding, he started messing around with a new girl in the main office. The whole plant knows about it.
I tapped the ash from my cigarette and said nothing.
Sarah's a complete wreck now, crying all the time. I say she deserves it. If it wasn't for her back then.
Let go. I cut him off. What's past is past. Since you're here, you can work for me. I need a warehouse manager. I'll pay you the Austin standard. Dave's mouth fell open.
For real?
I nodded and pressed the intercom button on my desk. Jessica, please take Mr. Robertson to HR and get him set up. After Dave left, I picked up the letters from my desk. Frank had also written about Sarah, saying how she was having a hard time, how Rick was never home, and how everyone at the plant was laughing at her for trying to marry up and failing. I tossed the letters into a drawer and picked up the phone. Mr. Peterson? Yes, it's Miller. About that shipment of digital watches we discussed. I want to add another 500 units. As my business grew, I brought a few of my most trusted old colleagues down to Austin. Every time they came, they brought news from home. I heard the steel plant was on the verge of bankruptcy, that Rick Wagner's father was under investigation, that Sarah's life was falling apart. I never asked for details. I just gave them jobs and helped them get settled in Texas. Sometimes, after a few drinks, Dave would get emotional.
Kevin, you're a real stand-up guy. Back at the plant, we all thought you were a fool, but now...
Let the past stay in the past. I'd say, raising my glass. To new beginnings.
To new beginnings.
By the end of the year, I bought a modern home in the Austin Hills. On moving day, my old friends all came to help. Dave, his face flushed with beer, suddenly said,
Kevin, you ever think? If Sarah hadn't chosen Rick back then, right now she'd be...
I shook my head. No, it wouldn't matter what she did. I would never have gotten back with her. Just as I'd said, the past was the past. 8. Late at night, I stood on the balcony, looking out at the glittering Austin skyline. The city was a universe of light, a different world from the dying steel town I'd left behind. Occasionally, I would think about my first life, about the man I was dying alone in that hospital bed. But now all of that truly felt like it had happened in another lifetime. My phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered. A voice, both familiar and strange, came through the line.
Kevin, it's me.
I didn't speak, just listened to the sound of her breathing.
Can I come to Austin to see you?
A cool night breeze blew past. I hung up the phone and went back inside my bright, warm house. I thought my silence was the only answer she needed, but I underestimated Sarah's persistence. She found her way to me. Her arrival forced me to interrupt a meeting. Riding the elevator down, I caught my reflection in the polished steel doors. My brow was furrowed in annoyance. In the reception area, Sarah was perched nervously on the edge of a leather sofa. Leo, who had shot up in height, was greedily eyeing a bowl of candy on the receptionist's desk. Sarah saw me and immediately stood up. She looked much older than I remembered. There were fine lines around her eyes, and the dress she was wearing was at least 3 years out of style. I had my assistant take Leo to the company cafeteria for a snack and led Sarah to a private conference room. "Why are you here?" Sarah clutched the glass of water I handed her, her knuckles white.
I divorced Rick.
When I didn't respond, she looked up at me, her eyes wet with tears.
Kevin, I know I was wrong. I was out of my mind back then.
You don't have to say any of this. It's all in the past. I cut her off and sat on the sofa opposite her. "What do you want, Sarah? You didn't come all this way for nothing."
It's Leo. He's been asking about you all the time. And me, Kevin, I've regretted it every single day for the last 3 years. I wish I could just slap myself for being so blind.
I looked at her face, expertly made up but still unable to hide the exhaustion, and I suddenly remembered her standing by my hospital bed, planning her wedding. I ignored her tearful confession and asked calmly, "After Rick's father was arrested, their family must have had a hard time, right?" Sarah's face went chalk white.
You? How did you know?
A lucky guess. Hearing that Sarah's life was a mess brought me no satisfaction. Even seeing her like this, I felt nothing. I just wanted her out of my life, permanently. I stood up. "I'll have my driver take you to a hotel. I'll buy you a bus ticket home for tomorrow."
No.
As I stood, she lunged forward and grabbed my hand.
Kevin, please, just give me one more chance. I'll cherish it this time. I swear.
I gently pulled my hand away. "That won't be necessary. Sarah, we ended a long time ago."
Is it because of Leo? He's a good kid now, really. He talks about his Uncle Kevin all the time.
I shook my head and pressed the intercom, asking Jessica to arrange for a car to take my guests away. "It has nothing to do with him or anyone else. It's me. I don't want to do this anymore." The tears finally fell.
Kevin Miller, do you hate me that much?
"I don't hate you," I said, shaking my head. "I just don't care anymore." When my assistant returned with a well-fed Leo, the boy's eyes lit up when he saw me.
Uncle Kevin, your company is huge. My mom said you're going to let me live in a big house with you, right?
Sarah rushed to cover his mouth. I crouched down to his level. "I had some ice cream sent to your hotel room, buddy. Why don't you let this nice lady take you there to eat it?"
Okay.
As Leo, who had indeed become more polite, was led away, I turned back to Sarah. "Stop using your son." Her makeup was streaked with tears, and she was sobbing so hard she nearly collapsed.
Kevin, I really know I was wrong. Look at me. I have nothing now. Can't you just take pity on me?
But I just looked at her coldly. "You didn't take pity on me." To her credit, Sarah had one last shred of dignity left and didn't make a bigger scene. After they were gone, my phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from Dave.
"Kevin, heard Sarah Jenkins came to find you. Don't you go soft on her, man."
I smiled and typed back a reply. "Don't worry, already moved on." Outside my window, the thriving city of Austin spread out before me. I picked up a new business proposal from my desk and got back to work. The past should stay where it belongs. Nothing was more important than tomorrow.